right, this evening we are honored to recognize the tremendous accomplishments of our students, staff, and schools. We begin tonight with the recognition of Central High School's newly dedicated Tyran Ty W. Scroggins Stadium. On September 10th, 2021, Central High School renamed its stadium in honor of beloved former coach Ty Scroggins. The dedication ceremony included several tributes as well as a special proclamation from Mayor Fisher's office. From now on, September 10th is officially Coach Ty Scroggins Day here in Louisville. Please enjoy this story our incredibly talented video journalist Jason Solon put together to show the highlights of that special evening on September 10th. Let's see if I can get it here. Chuck, I might need your help.
It was something about that smile that softened the hardest person out there on the field.
Came here, brought 5 state championships to the community.
He would never say, I won, he said, we won. You know, the Russell community won.
And he was always there to support them, and they knew that. So that's the thought that I have the most about him. And that's what I will always remember. Because of him, some of our young people have made great steps forward.
Ty Scroggins was much more than just a coach, and his real reason we are standing on the field made it an honor.
I knew he was going to be a great mentor, he was going to be a great teacher, he was going to be a great coach. What I didn't know is that he was going to win 6 championships in 10 years.
Just such an amazing coach, friend, confidant, mentor.
He made me into a better person, he taught me some things, and I'm excited to play for him today.
And I'm just so blessed that every Friday night under the game lights, I get to look up and know that he's here with us.
This is really special to me and my family because we wanted to continue his legacy here at Central. He did a lot of great things here.
So it's a very special moment to be a part of.
I wish he was here to see it, but I know he's looking down on me to watching this right now.
Do my thing! In Jesus' name! Amen! Amen!
This was church. This was truly church. You know, this was his temple. This was his place of worship. This was the place where he built young boys into men who are doing significant things in our community. Teachers, you know, doctors, you know, coaches. So the impact truly went beyond 1130 West Chestnut.
I think he'll be proud of us as a school and as a team, what we're doing for him today. It's a very important moment. I'm happy to be a part of it.
He gave all his time, hard work, dedication to the kids, the community. It means a lot, really.
Students, fans, the Ty Scroggins Athletic Complex.
At this time, please join me in congratulating Central High School on this fantastic tribute. There we go. Next up, we'd like to recognize, there we go, No Middle School's Lead for Change team. Last school year, No Middle School had a group of 6th graders involved in the Lead for Change organization. Their participation included a service project focused on the community. The group had a goal to help people who were food insecure during the pandemic. The students created flyers and a PSA video. They were also featured on the Terry Miners radio show to raise awareness about this issue and promote their food drive. The event was very successful and allowed the group to donate both canned food and a $500 donation to the Dare to Care Food Bank. Now, this project didn't just receive impressive attention in the local community, it also earned the group 2nd place nationally in the Lead for Change organization competition. The group recently got to present the $500 check to the Dare to Care Food Bank. The group called themselves the Courageous Cougars, and student members include Jackson Riddle, Grayson Bennett, Kinsley Yerkes, Camille Hoekstra, Kason Dreisbach, Bailey Fletcher, Stella Schumann, Sarah Catlett, Finnegan Broyles, Kendall Barton, Elliot Case, and Andrew Linsig. The group advisors include 6th grade teacher Tyron Edwards and mental health practitioner Kelly Mercer. Please join me in congratulating this group on their wonderful work. And And finally, tonight, we'd like to recognize the district teams supporting students in quarantine. JCPS has a massive team dedicated to this process, and a ton of work has gone into making this alternative instruction feasible and successful. From enrolling students into the system to classroom development to live instruction, there are many, many dedicated JCPS team members making this feat possible. These team members are led by Assistant Superintendents Michelle Dillard and Katie DeFerrari and come from several different departments, including teaching and learning, culture and climate, DEP, and digital innovation. We are thankful for the collaboration of departments across the district to provide academic and social emotional lessons to our students while in quarantine. Please join me in congratulating these dedicated staff members for going above and beyond during this challenging time.
Thank you. At this time, is there a motion to receive the recognitions, please? Board Member Craig, seconded by Dr. Schul. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda for this evening? Dr. Cobb, seconded by Board Member Craig. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 14th meeting? Board Member Craig, seconded by Board Member Marshall. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce our superintendent for the superintendent's report, Dr. Marty Polio.
Thank you, Chair Porter and board members. I bring you the superintendent report for October 5th. And as I've started each of the past superintendent reports, I want to say this again because I don't think we can underscore this enough. The hard work that our educators in this district are doing every single day to ensure that we prevent the spread of COVID, first of all, in our schools as much as absolutely possible, but also to make sure that we have in-person learning. And it's impossible for me to recognize enough the work of our teachers, classified staff, administrators, central office staff, bus drivers, nutrition workers, and all other educators in this district. I know the fall break came at a great time for them, but it's just important that we continue to recognize our staff for the unbelievable work that's taking place every day. Thank you. I spend multiple days in schools every week, and I truly am blown away by the dedication and commitment of the entire JCPS team to really make sure that we are providing safety and providing great instruction in our support for our students. So I do want to highlight some of the next steps we are taking in the fight against COVID-19. I want to reiterate that all of these steps are designed to keep our staff and students safe and to keep us in in-person learning. You all made the decision to have universal masking in our schools in late July. And although that was controversial at that time, that step has kept our schools open. Recently, the CDC reported through several studies that widespread outbreak in schools were 3.5 times more likely in districts without universal masking. But we do know layered prevention and mitigation is also critical. Vaccination and testing are two parts of that as well that we are working hard on. We obviously look forward to the approval of the vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds so that all K through 12 students and staff have the opportunity to be vaccinated. Tonight we're going to recommend a couple new steps. First, we will bring you our comprehensive plan for test to stay in lieu of quarantining. For close contact, those staff and students who are asymptomatic but have had a close contact can test on a daily basis to remain in school with the negative test. The work that has gone in to prepare for that is monumental. The amount of testing sites we will have to support that is huge, but I think it's an important step. We will also be discussing mandatory weekly testing for all indoor winter extracurricular activities. And finally, we will be recommending that we match the $100 that KDE has offered to all vaccinated employees that have been or will be fully vaccinated by December 1st, and we will ask you to bring us that match as well. So all employees that are vaccinated or will be vaccinated by December 1st will receive $200. Tonight we'll also be discussing our legislative agenda. This is going to be a very important session for many reasons. First, we know it's a budget session, and I believe nothing is more critical than fully funding education across the Commonwealth, which includes the continuation of full-day kindergarten, an increase in basic funding to reflect inflation, and the funding of other programs that have been cut, such as transportation, professional development for teachers, and K-TIP, amongst just a few. And I think these are going to be critical that we see these in the budget coming out of Frankfurt this winter. Also, we strongly recommend opposing any continued support for privatization of public education by diverting public funds to private schools. And lastly, we will highlight the importance of our opposition to any legislation that strips local control of the curriculum and how it directly reflects our own student population. Finally, on the horizon, although we have worked so hard on COVID, I think it's important that we look ahead to the months to come. We have some real important work ahead of us, not just the COVID mitigation, but also our continued work around future state. So in the weeks to come, we're really going to be focusing significantly on the discussion of student assignment again, and specifically also bell times along with that, so that we can reduce our bus routes. And we will also be having in-depth discussions and conversations around school safety and security. I look forward to these discussions so we can continue to be innovative in the ways that we address our students' needs. That concludes the superintendent report.
Thank you, Dr. Polio. We will now move next to persons requesting to address the board. I have a statement to read before we start with our speakers. In accordance with Board Policy 014.21, the board expects that persons who have signed up to address the board will limit their remarks to the subject that they listed at the time they signed up, that their presentation will not include any abusive remarks about that subject, and that they will also present their remarks in a manner that is consistent with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Also, in accordance with board policy, the board reserves the right to limit, extend, or terminate discussions on any subject. Discussion of personnel matters is not permitted, as the board has no legal authority regarding such matters, and such discussion is not appropriate. Personnel matters are within the authority of the superintendent. If a speaker begins to discuss a personnel matter, the chair shall terminate the speaker's remarks. A speaker may not initiate charges or complaints against an individual district employee. Discussion of a district employee by name or position is not permitted in order to ensure confidentiality and fairness to the employee. If a person discusses a district employee by name or position in their remarks to the board, the chair shall immediately terminate the speaker's remarks. Speakers before the entire board are not allowed to use props, displays, or other objects during the presentations. However, the informational handouts may be given to one of our security officers to the left or to the right for distribution following the meeting. To ensure the health and safety of other speakers and staff, please refrain from touching the microphone. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board and may not share these minutes with any other speaker. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a bell will sound once. You will then have 30 seconds to finish your statement. At the end of 3 minutes, the bell will sound twice, indicating that your time is up. The superintendent will look into the speaker's issues and, if necessary, represent the board in following up or recommend action to the board. Board Policy 01.45 establishes that persons speaking regarding items on the board agenda shall be permitted to do so prior to persons speaking regarding non-agenda items. A maximum of 45 minutes shall be allocated for speakers immediately after the superintendent's report. Speakers who are unable to be accommodated due to that time limitation may address the board later in the meeting immediately following the board reports. The full board policy concerning public participation in open meetings is available for viewing on our website and at our sign-in sheet. I do want to emphasize that we have a number of speakers this evening. We will stop after 45 minutes, and those that have not been able to address the board will have the opportunity to do so after we finish the business meeting. Our first speaker this evening is Gay Adelman. Gay Adelman. Welcome. Why are there no slides?
Good evening, dear JCPS. First, I would like to start off by clarifying a statement that I made at last month's board meeting. I erroneously made a statement about the number of students that we've lost to COVID. Generally, when I speak about students that we've lost, I also refer to students that we've lost to gun violence, and I erroneously left part of my statement off, and I want to apologize for that. As I was stating last month, our schools have not been safe for Black and brown and disabled students since before COVID. So this is a continuation of that conversation, and I would like to specifically address the legislative agenda. On the Dear JCPS website, under the Parent Involvement tab, it states, "We believe that parents are their child's first teachers. Our philosophy is to serve the total child. To do this, the entire family must be involved. Family support is essential if the child is to have the best opportunity for success in school and in life. Parents are not only welcome but encouraged to participate in the classroom and in other aspects of the program." 2 years ago at the October 2019 board meeting, I spoke about the value time, talent, and treasure can have on student outcomes. A copy of that speech was emailed to you earlier this afternoon. I told you how parents have been pushed out of their PTAs or prevented from serving on their site-based decision-making councils or driven out of their schools completely. Principals have been manipulating elections in order to impact the SBDM makeup. I stood at a street corner 2 years ago right within eyesight of the school protesting the PTA election because it had been rigged. At the December meeting in 2019, I encouraged you to make space for parental involvement on the legislative agenda and how the barriers that exist work against our parents and work against our chance to overcome these disparities. We need to infuse our schools with the opportunities for parents to be involved and have a seat at the table. Many of our low-performing schools lost their site-based decision-making council power over a decade ago, yet our site-based decision-making council is responsible our schools by not allowing them the opportunity to pick their own curriculum. I was too late when I spoke in December of 2019, but I'm hoping that because I'm here in October and asking the same request, we can invite impacted parents to have a seat at the table, but also ask you to put restoring site-based decision-making councils to all schools on the legislative agenda for 2022. As we try to claw our way back from this pandemic, not only of COVID, but also of gun violence and disparate educational outcomes, our impacted community members have the answers. They need a seat at the table in order to be heard. I urge you to consider this plea once again. Also regarding high-stakes tests, don't just advocate against their use, advocate against their administration. The NEA published an article, The Racist Beginnings of Standardized Testing, which I have provided a copy of.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Harmer. Mr. Harmer, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Chris Harmer. I want to congratulate you on a broad and detailed legislative agenda. I think the superintendent has gone over most of the things that we're interested in talking about, but there is something missing. We believe that, for starters, you should be lobbying against a bill request that would impose the requirement to have SROs in every school campus by August of 2022. And further, we believe that you should revise the legislative agenda to include revising current status for giving local school districts the decision-making power to decide whether or not to have SROs in the first place. In response to the Tyree Smith shooting, Police Chief Shield repeatedly said that Metro Police lacks critical intelligence about incidents like the one that caused his death because there are no longer school resource officers in Jefferson County Public Schools. She wants to see SROs in every campus. That means potentially 155 officers, which just don't exist at this point. We absolutely disagree. Gathering information about potential crime in our community may be a problem, but SRO on every campus is not the solution. Chief Shields has said out loud what police, politicians, and researchers have known for years. A key goal of increased federal funding for SROs over the last 2 decades was to improve relationships between police and youth so that they could gather information on crimes. But at what cost, and why does this have to be done in the schools, not in the neighborhoods? SROs have become a part of the process of disciplining and controlling students of color. District-wide in school years 16-17, SROs and JCPS participated in resolving behavior incidents involving black students at a rate 3.8 times higher than that with white students. That disparity resulted in arrest rates for black students 4.9 times higher than for white students. This is the school-to-prison pipeline. Students are in school to learn. Research shows that for learning to happen, a sense of belonging is key. Unfortunately, for many students of color and students living in poverty, the presence of school resource officers, police, in our schools actually decreases their sense of safety. There are good reasons to rely on properly resourced teams of safe crisis management teams of properly trained teachers, administrators, and school mental health personnel to deal with behavior issues. Teachers and officers are trained to see behavior incidents through very different frames. By state law, JCPS has no real control over SROs. They act independently as sworn officers, armed and with the power of arrest. And if they determine that law enforcement action is necessary, JCPS people simply cannot stop it. We must take action to address the growing violence in our community, but that violence must be seen in a public health issue. The gun control is ultimately the product of unjust and generational violence.
Thank you, Mr. Harmer. Thank you. Our next speaker is Eileen Serkey. The previous speakers was acceptance of the report for the legislative agenda. Our next 3 speakers will be speaking on the acceptance of flexible funds from KDE. The first speaker will be Eileen Serkey, then Frank Simon, and then Dr. Lance Pearson. Eileen Serkey.
I see that the JCPS board protects themselves with multiple police officers at these board meetings. But you voted to defund SROs in our schools. Why do you deserve 1 police officer for each board member here, while our schools with hundreds of children do not even get 1 police officer to protect them? We have a gang problem in our city and in our schools. Since you defunded SROs, an Eastern High School student, Tyree Smith, was murdered. His funeral was held this last weekend. It appears that you value your lives more than the lives of our children. It is time to restore SROs in our schools. I urge you to use the funds for safe and drug-free schools that you will get from flexible focus funds from the Kentucky Department of Education for police presence in our schools. After spending the $1.2 million from the flexible funds, you can surely find money out of your $1.2 billion budget to fund the remaining SROs to protect our children in all JCPS schools. It is time to restore SROs in our schools. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frank Simon. I will make a statement before the speaker starts that as you applaud and whatever you like to do while the speaker is talking, sometimes it eliminates the ability for people to hear the speakers. And I'm sorry, and it's a part of their 3 minutes in speaking. Mr. Simon, welcome.
Thank you. I would like to reemphasize what Eileen Serkey said, that it seems that there should be some protection for our children in the school. Well, there's such a huge protection for your meetings here. The other thing I'd like to mention is the achievement gaps in Jefferson County Public Schools. I'm looking at the NAER grade 4 math and grade 8 math. It started back in 2009 and was repeated up until 2019. During that time, the black students had a 29-point achievement gap compared with the white children. And it has been the same during this whole 12-year period. So I think there's a reason for that, and that is because the Jefferson County Teachers Union does not put good teachers in the black schools. And it's getting worse and worse, and that's a reason for it. They're discriminating against the failing schools in the West End, and it's not fair, and they should be fair to the black students and not discriminate against them like they are now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Lance Pearson. Dr. Lance Pearson.
In 2019, this school board removed funding for school resource officers. They're basically protection for public school students. The school system only has 21 people working security for 167 schools. In short, that's pathetic. Those 21 people are not even armed, and they're not even based in the schools. So when someone, if they were to show up to a school with a gun, those people would have to commute to the school to deal with the emergency and then just talk aggressively because they're not armed. It's basically unacceptable. Now, what is the reason for this? Well, in short, the school has the funds to pay for SROs. The American Rescue Plan, Emergency and Secondary Relief, ESSER funds have provided at least $578 million to the school system. Those funds are allowed to be used for law enforcement. They also just approved $75 million for staff bonuses. There's now on the agenda $1.2 million more that are used for flexible funds for safe schools. So, in short, if you're not willing to do it, you should at least consider that you are legally responsible for that. The Kentucky Safe Schools and Resiliency Act of 2019, the SSRA, requires that every district in the state must have one SRO resource officer for every school campus if funds are available, and they are available. So, in short, it is a choice by this board not to protect our kids, but judging by the 7+ people that are here protecting you, you think that your own safety is non-negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers will be talking about a new way forward. This is taking away from your 45 minutes for speakers. The next speakers will The next speakers will deal with a new way forward update on the school year 2021-22. The first speaker is Benny Gohagan, and after that is Holly Rue. Benny Gohagan.
Early literacy unlocks the world for children, for all children. It has the potential to break the cycle of generational poverty, which is a key indicator of low student achievement in school. Dr. Ben Carson and Dr. Thomas Sowell both attribute their success to early literacy despite being born into poverty. Dr. Carson's mother made sure he read every day, and a family friend introduced Dr. Sowell to the wonder of the free public library early on, changing the course of his life. While there have been many trends in this area over the years, what Milton Wright discovered decades ago with the science of reading still holds true. The science of reading shows that phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, building vocabulary, and comprehension are proven techniques when teaching students to read. Mississippi decided to set aside the latest trends in academics and start using tried and true methods in 2013. At the time, they were the state that made Kentucky look not so bad. Since then, they have surpassed Kentucky on the NAEP assessments. By 2019, Mississippi was the only state in America where more fourth graders became proficient in reading on the NAEP reading proficiency assessments. Meanwhile, in Jefferson County, the percentage of students who performed at or above the NAEP proficiency level was only 30% in 2019. In 2009, the average score was 259 out of 500. 10 years later, in 2019, the average score was 258 out of 500. In 2019, Black students had an average score that was 35 points lower than that for white students. That is wider than the gap in 2009, when it was only 22 points. So in 2010, we adopted Common Core standards. In 2017, JCPS was already implementing its equity program. In 2018-19, diversity, equity, and inclusion were the focus of every aspect in the district. That was the last year any assessments were given prior to COVID, except for MAP testing. The budget has increased, the administrative department has grown, the social activism in our schools and classrooms has exploded, and our literacy rates have stagnated or declined. It is time for JCPS to set aside their bent on using our students for every educational trend that arises and get back to proven methods of teaching skills that will equip them to be entrepreneurs, community leaders, dependable employees, productive citizens, and lifelong learners. If our public school system refuses to listen to parents and taxpayers and insists on wasting billions of dollars on social experiments rather than investing in quality education through proven techniques, then parents and students should have a real choice in education through charter schools and vouchers. I will conclude with a quote from an author we are probably all familiar with. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Our students deserve to be equipped with the skills to go wherever their dreams can take them. As the school board, you are held accountable when that does not happen. You are responsible for grounding thousands of young people through your failed program.
Our next speaker is Holly Rue. Holly Rue.
Good evening. My name is Holly Rui, and I'm a parent of a freshman at Wagner High School. My son Carson went 17 months without getting COVID. We attended school for 10 days, and he contracted COVID. I'm here to ask you not to allow the test and stay. I'm here to ask you not to allow test and stay in our school. My son
We're recessed for the next 5 minutes. That's the end of speakers. We are recessed for 5 minutes. Thank you.
gentlemen, everyone, leave it until we can restore order, okay? Then we'll bring you back in.
That woman in the blue literally just asked if people could be separated because she doesn't want to be around them. Shit's hit the fan here at the JCPS board meeting. So I'm able to go directly into the soundboard now, so you get way better clarity when people are talking through the microphones. But as soon as the chaos broke out, apparently they cut off the PA. I still had it plugged in. When I realized, I came back and unplugged it. They called for a 5-minute intermission. That's whenever things kind of started to go south. And now they're asking that everybody leave the room so that they can reclaim control. And then everyone will be allowed back in to remain, to finish up the meeting. A little bit of everybody was shouting. Honestly, everybody was shouting. Both sides. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and drop the live stream for now. I will go back live once everyone is allowed back in. They have asked everyone to leave so they can regain control, and then everyone will be allowed back in for the meeting to proceed. So I'm going to go ahead and drop for now, but watch for that notification. I should be back live within the next probably 5 or 10 minutes. No, this is a hearing about School Resource Officers about having police officers in school. Well, you know, actually, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop the live. Stay tuned for that notification because I'll be back live shortly.